Act 3, Scene 5 is going to be a little bit different than what we've been used to. So if you guys remember from yesterday, we ended with Macbeth pretty much saying that everybody's going to die because he thinks it's easier to just go and kill people rather than to go back and do the right thing anymore. And Lady Macbeth was just kind of like, I think you need to go and like sleep, because she's a little bit disturbed by what all he had to say, understandably so. And yeah, so we're going to go and see how that's going to work out. And he did say that he was going to go and see the witches again. And Scene 5 is within a heath, which is where we had met the witches before. However, I wanted to go and give you a little bit of background story about this. Most likely, this scene was not written by Shakespeare. If you guys remember, the play of Macbeth, the original play of Macbeth, does not exist anymore because King James I was just like, no, rewrite it. You have this amount of time, and it's a very short amount of time in order to go and rewrite it, or you're going to die. I'm going to go and cut off your head and put it on a pike, okay? So Shakespeare went and was probably burned the midnight oil and was writing. It's his darkest play, but it's also his shortest play. And the reason I bring that up is because only 18 of his plays were published while he was alive. Macbeth was not one of those plays, okay? After Shakespeare died, a couple years passed, and people were just like, huh, he had some really good plays. Maybe we should, get all of the actors together and write these plays down and publish them, because they were pretty darn good. But it was a little bit difficult because for those actors, it had now been like 7 years or more since they had last acted that play. And when they received their lines, they didn't receive the entire play, which is what most actors get now. Instead, they only received their own lines. So it's not like an actor could be like, here, let me just give you a copy of the play, and then you guys can go and publish it that way. Nope, paper was super expensive. And so they had to get all of the actors who were still alive together and try to remember it. I don't know about y'all, but like, I was in a couple of plays. I remember some of my lines, but I don't remember all of my lines. It's just like, dang. So the first attempt to go and publish his works in their entirety was 7 years after his death. And the first folio is what it was called. And that contained 36 plays. So he wrote a ton of plays and a ton of poems during his lifetime. To give you pretty much the equivalent, it's kind of like Taylor Swift with how she's going and just like going and, like rolling out all of these new albums all the time. And I don't know how she's sleeping. So they're like pretty on par right there. I think Shakespeare still has her beat, but I don't know, give her a few more months or something. I don't know. Yes, sir. Shakespeare did have 3 children. So he had 2 girls and a boy. And it was, what was it? Susanna, Judith, and Hamnet. And I think it was Judith and Hamnet were twins. And then Hamnet died during the plague, which is probably why he named Hamlet, after his son. Oh, it's so sad. I don't know if he still does. I'm sure that someone out there is. Everyone's related in some way, shape, or form. That'd be a good thing to Google. I don't know the answer to that, so I would check that. Your stepmom's in the Mayflower Society? Wow. Wow. That's pretty impressive. And she has ancestors who were part of the Mayflower? Dang. That's pretty impressive. My half brother does like the ancestry.com stuff. He's just all about that life. And I appreciate it because I enjoy the fruits of his labor when I go in and look at it online. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate you, sir. What's that? Really? Which Queen Elizabeth, the first or the second one? Mrs. Schultz is descended from royals. That's pretty exciting. So like there's this huge controversy around Shakespeare where people are like, oh, well, Shakespeare wasn't really the author of all of his plays. And they're technically kind of right because none of it was published except for those 18 plays during his lifetime. So everything that's published that we have here, I'm going to go and grab my Shakespeare book really fast. I'm sorry. Thank you. Hey, you know, I'm smaller. I can go faster now. So as I'm running, thank you. Didn't even break a sweat. Woo, there we go. So all of this is all of Shakespeare's stuff. And this is written in like, I don't know, size 4 font pretty much. Go. There, it's massive. Like that is definitely a doorstop right there. So people are always just like, well, there's no way that one person could have written all of this. And I mean, they may be right because they're going based upon the actor's memories. Now, the reason I bring this up at this point is because of this scene. This scene was most likely not written by Shakespeare. This scene might not be in the right spot. It might not even be from Shakespeare's play. I'm in the team that says this is not Shakespeare's work whatsoever, okay? Most directors do cut this scene, and we're gonna listen to it and I'll explain. Once you hear it, you're gonna be like, yeah, no, this is not it whatsoever, okay? So beforehand, here's why. The meter is gonna be different than the witches have spoken before. I mean, usually people sound pretty similar to themselves. Now all of a sudden it's going to be a completely bigger shift. That just doesn't make sense. Originally, whenever we've seen the witches before, they spoke in Iambic Pentameter. So that's usually how we speak, actually, is Iambic Pentameter. This scene is in Iambic Tetrometer. Okay, in Iambic Tetrometer. And it also introduces a brand new character of Hecate. Now, yes, she's been referred to, but she's never appeared. So if she's all that important, why wouldn't she have appeared until now? Most likely the author is a guy named Thomas Middleton. So Middleton is spelled Middleton. And you will probably need to know that for the test, just as a heads up, Thomas Middleton, all right? So let's go ahead and get started.
Scene 5. The barren heath, lashed by thunder and lightning. Enter the 3 witches and Hecate.
Why, how now, Hecate? You look angrily. Have I not reason, beldams as you are, saucy and overbold?
That question, she's just like, why should I not look angrily? Was that what she said? Yeah, angrily. She's like, you old crones. That's what bedlams mean. And she's like, you've been saucy and overbold. I would suggest not using that. However, I'm kind of tempted at this point to maybe try to bring that into like whenever my mom gets a little bit weird. Be like, why are you being so saucy and overbold, Mom? Oh yeah, go for it. I may try to bust it out with you, CV. No offense, but I don't think that you would get offended by it. So getting a little saucy and overbold there. So that means she's like, you old crones, why are you doing too much and exceeding your power? Ooh, angry witch queen here. I like that. It's cute. Let's see what else she has to say.
How did you dare to trade and traffic with Macbeth in riddles and affairs of death? And I, the mistress of your charms, the close contriver of all harms, was never called to bear my part or show the glory of our art. And, which is worse, all you have done hath been but for a wayward son. spiteful and wrathful, who, as others do, loves for his own ends, not for you.
Well then. So she's like, how dare you? How dare you? How could you go and play with Macbeth and not involve me? She's a little angry. And she's like, it has been all for nothing. I mean, Macbeth is evil for his own sake and not for theirs. And it's implying that he betrayed them in some way, which, let's face it, that's pretty much nonsense. And whoever wrote this scene for this part of the play really didn't understand what was happening and like Macbeth's reasoning. Sorry, Thomas Middleton, but not too good with that. Whereas Shakespeare goes and he was showing how like a person's flaws will go and just like consume them. Not how any person can just be drawn into evil by some witches. I mean, if that's the case, it's just, it's like it's just happenstance, it's just chance. Whereas no, this has always been within Macbeth. He always had that ability. They just kind of, cracked the door open a little bit and he went like powering through like the Kool-Aid man. Please tell me you get that reference. Yes. Yeah.
But make amends now. Get you gone, and at the pit of Acheron meet me in the morning. Thither he will come to know his destiny. Your vessels and your spells provide, your charms and everything beside. I am for the air. This night I'll spend unto a dismal and a fatal end. Great business must be wrought ere noon. Upon the corner of the moon there hangs a vaporous drop profound. I'll catch it ere it come to ground, and that, distilled by magic sleights, shall raise such artificial sprites as by the strength of their illusion shall draw him on to his confusion. He shall spurn fate, scorn death, and bear his hopes above wisdom, grace, and fear. And you all know security is mortal's chiefest enemy.
In the sky a cloud appears, seeming to hold a cat, a witch's familiar that signals to Hecate.
Hark! I am called. My little spirit, see, sits in a foggy cloud and stays for me.
They dance and they sing.
All God's fair for our delight, either come or else refuse. Now I'm furnished for the flight. Now I go and now I fly, mocking my sweet spirit and I.
Come, let's make haste. She'll soon be back again.
The witches all vanish.
A little different, huh? Move over, Hamilton. It's now Macbeth the musical. Yeah, it just gives you the kind of the heebie-jeebies, doesn't it? And that's what that tetrometer does. It puts you on edge a little bit. It's just weird. And then they start the singing and the dancing. And this is awkward. So anyway, let's go see what Hecate had to say. She says that the crescent moon will be in the sky, and then from one side, a drop of water will fall. I always think of like the beginning of DreamWorks. Remember, like that little like guy. I think what is that? Is he like fishing? He's in like the little crescent moon. I don't know. Boop. That's what it reminds me of. Anyway, so the drop of water is going to fall, and it's going to make illusions come to Macbeth, who seems to move away from his fate. Okay, that goes and like contradicts the rest of the play. Remember that like what started Macbeth on his downfall came from within. It wasn't that the witches are just like, ha ha ha, let's go and make a little Macbeth puppet and make him dance like to their little song there. He only really needed the witches to go and point him in the right direction, and then to like let the evilness out from within himself, not that they just go and like control his actions. So that doesn't make sense at all. And then Hecate seems to like infer that Macbeth is good, and that it's going to take magic to go and get him away from his true nature of that goodness and make him go on over to the dark side. I don't know about y'all, but it seemed like he was pretty okay with killing his best friend and trying to kill a kid yesterday. Maybe I was not reading it correctly, but I don't know. And then Hecate likes to use a lot of rhyming couplets. We have seen that within the play so far, but a rhyming couplet is going to be like at the end of the two lines, and the two lines are right next to each other. So like we have, hark, I am called, my little spirit sea sits in a foggy cloud and stays for me. So the sea and me rhyme. Actually, most of them did, didn't they? Spend and end, noon and moon, profound and ground, slights and sprites, illusion, confusion, bear and fair, British, security and enemy. So that is just intense. And so that's why, like, if you're just reading the book, it doesn't make a lot of sense of why that doesn't go and fit there. I think you have to like see it as a play, or that you have to go and hear the audio for that little bit. All right. All right, so scene 6, we're going to be in forest. We're back to Shakespeare's stuff rather than Thomas Middleton's. And we are going to hear from Lennox, and he's going to be talking to another lord here. So here we go.
Act 3, Scene 6. A castle in Scotland. Enter Lennox and a lord.
My former speeches have but hit your thoughts, which can interpret farther. Only I say things have been strangely born. The gracious Duncan was pitied of Macbeth. Marry, he was dead. And the right valiant Banquo walked too late, whom you may say, if please you, Fleance killed, for Fleance fled. Men must not walk too late. Who cannot want the thought how monstrous it was for Malcolm and for Donalbain to kill their gracious father? Damned fact! How it did grieve Macbeth! Did he not straight in pious rage the two delinquents tear, that were the slaves of drink and thralls of sleep? Was not that nobly done?
So Lennox has been thinking. He's had some time to reflect now. And he's like, okay, this is just weird. Malcolm had already been declared as the next king by Duncan. So why would he have gone and killed his dad? That doesn't make a lot of sense. He's like, all he had to really do was wait. He already had it. Like, but you know, Macbeth was acting kind of strange. And he did go and kill those two guards rather than like having them go to trial and hearing their side of the story. He's like, do you think he killed the guards in order to make himself look innocent? He's like, because it's kind of strange. Like every time someone hangs around the Macbeth castle, someone goes out in a body bag. True. True story.
Aye, and wisely too, for 'twould have angered any heart alive to hear the men deny it. So that I say he has borne all things well, and I do think that had he Duncan's sons under his key, as, and please heaven, he shall not, they should find what 'twere to kill a father, so should Fleance. But peace, for from broad words, and 'cause he failed his presence at the tyrant's feast, I hear Macduff lives in disgrace. Sir, can you tell where he bestows himself?
All right, so he really does think that Macbeth is guilty. Now, remember from the previous real scene, when we learned that Macbeth has a spy in Macduff's home, he actually has spies in every single Thane's home because he doesn't trust anybody. Eek. So this scene is really here to go and show how everyone is like really, really paranoid and they don't know who to trust. And the country's feeling very divided, very much like how England did after the gunpowder plot. So remember that the gunpowder plot was when people were upset with the English government. So they decided to go and like put all kinds of gunpowder underneath Parliament, and they were going to go and set it to explode when all of like everyone was in Parliament, including King James I. But it was thwarted. It didn't work out. So Lennox thinks that if Macbeth had Duncan's sons in jail, and he was in Scotland, that Malcolm and Donalbain were in Scotland in jail, that something would mysteriously happen to them and that they would end up dead. That's accurate. And then where it says, let's see here, so please heaven he shall not, they should find what twere to kill a father. That's what that one means. So should Fleance. So at this point, everybody knows that Banquo is dead and that Fleance survived and Fleance fled. We don't know where he went. I'm just going to let you know, we never find out where Fleance went. Yeah, it's just kind of sad. Then when it says, but peace for from broad words and cause he failed his presence at the tyrant's feast. I hear Macduff lives in disgrace. Sir, can you tell me where he bestows himself? So Lennox is going to be the first one to refer to Macbeth as a tyrant. Pretty much from here on out for the rest of the play, Macbeth is always going to be referred to as a tyrant. Why? Because now everybody realizes that he is being selfish and that he's just killing everybody left and right. He is not being a king and trying to do what is best for his kingdom and his subjects. Nope, he's just doing it for Macbeth, and anyone who seemingly gets in his way, he will have killed. And then where it says Macduff lives in disgrace. So remember that Macduff was the one who didn't show up to Banquo's banquet. That's really hard to say, but I love the alliteration and I'm going to go with it from here on out. Therefore, Macbeth is irritated and he's just like, you are shunned. Oh, darn. He doesn't have to go and hang out at the Macbeth castle. That means he's going to live. That's good. I'd been like, yay, please disgrace us all. So let's find out where Macduff went, because he's not at home anymore.
The son of Duncan, from whom this tyrant holds the due of birth, lives in the English court, and is received with the most pious Edward, with such grace that the malevolence of fortune nothing takes from his high respect. Thither Macduff is gone to pray the holy king, upon his aid to wake Northumberland and warlike Seawood, that by the help of these, with him above to ratify the work, we may again give to our tables meat, sleep to our nights, free from our feasts and banquets bloody knives, do faithful homage, and receive free honours, all which we pine for now. And this report hath so exasperate the king that he prepares for some attempt of war.
So he says, well, Duncan, son, Malcolm, remember that Malcolm went to England once his dad was killed, whereas Donalbain went to Ireland. So Malcolm's now living in the English court, and he is with King Edward the Confessor in England. So that's who the English king was at that time. Macduff has gone to England as well in order to meet with Seaward and Northumberland to ask for help from England to fight and take out Macbeth. Now, if Macbeth learns about this, that Macduff has gone to England in order to be like, yeah, we need to take out the king, what's that considered? if you go and try to remove a king. Yeah, it's treason. But I mean, is it justifiable at this point? Yeah, definitely. You know, he's not really a king. He's a tyrant. And then when he's talking about, we may again give our tables meat, sleep to our nights, free from our feasts and banquets, bloody knives. Dang. So all of Scotland is now in a famine. And everybody from like the Thanes on down to the like infants, every single person feels terrorized by Macbeth because he is now openly killing people that he views as any kind of competition. Like he's not even trying to hide it anymore. He's just gonna be like, you looked at me funny, you're dead. You said something to me last week, you're dead. I don't like the way you walk, you're dead. Oh my gosh, that's a little scary. And so now the entire country is starving because, well, I mean, people are dying left and right, and people are scared. Aw, poor Scotland. And then it says, let's see here. And this report has so exasperate the king that he prepares for some attempt of war. Uh-oh. So Macbeth is preparing for war. And remember, the first time that we met Macbeth, he was fighting in a war, and he's really good at it. Oh no. Let's see what happens next.
Sent he to Macduff?
He did, and with an absolute "Sir, not I," the cloudy messenger turns me his back, and hums as who should say, "You'll rue the time that clogs me with this answer."
So Lennox is like, so did Macbeth like send for Macduff? I know that it's super hard to like keep all of these Macs separated. We'll try to keep it up. I'll try not to screw it up too much here. And so the Lord's like, yeah, he did. He like sent a letter to Macduff saying, get your booty back here. And Macduff responded with an absolute, "Sir, not I." The cloudy messenger turns me his back and hums, as who should say, you'll rue the time that clogs me with this answer. So Macduff answers with, I know you say to come and see you. No, I'm not gonna come back. Make me. And Macbeth's answer is, oh, you'll pay for that. Uh-oh. That's not good. Now think about it. When Macduff left, do you think he took his entire household, like everybody, including all of the workers, even like the chickens, with him to England? Or do you think he probably left some people behind? So in that way, you know, his castle doesn't go to ruin. He probably left some people. So he would need some people there who are still pretty high up, right? In order to like make decisions. I wonder who could have been left behind, who will make Macduff rue the time that clogs me with this answer. Think about it. Let's continue.
And that well might advise him to a caution, to hold what distance his wisdom can provide. Some holy angel fly to the court of England and unfold his message ere he come, that a swift blessing may soon return to this our suffering country under a hand accursed.
I'll send my prayers with him.
And that's the end of Act 3. So Lennox says, and that well might advise him to a caution, to hold what distance his wisdom can provide. Some holy angel fly to the court of England and unfold his message ere he come, that a swift blessing may soon return to this our suffering country under a hand accursed. And the Lord says, I'm going to pray my hardest that this will come true. And it's Scotland is looking to England to save them. And that was Shakespeare trying to make James I, remember that that's the king that this play was written for, a lot happier. So it's a nod to him because King James I was king in both Scotland as well as England, okay? Now, when the Lord says, I'll send my prayers with him, how's that a little bit of irony? Because who in our play is unable to pray for forgiveness? Macbeth. So they're still able to pray for, like they're on the good side. And, but Macbeth is not. So that ends Act 3. It's pretty intense there.